Would you like to see your career advance this year? Or perhaps attract more clients into your service, your profession, or avail of your services? Or maybe you'd like to see your network expand and your influence enlarge even more. Or perhaps you'd like to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition out there. Well, friends, here's 3P's to be promotable in your career or industry in and out of the pandemic. Hi, everyone. My name is Coach Adrian Ding. And what I do is I train and develop people so that they can become a better version of themselves. And we do that through life-changing training programs centered around leadership and personal branding. And over the last 15 years of being a consultant and a trainer, I've been so fortunate to have some of the top 500 corporations as my clients, some of which are San Miguel, Jollibee, Aboitiz, and so on. And I've also had the privilege to sit down in boardrooms and meet with decision makers and talk with business owners and even dine out with them sometimes, and they become my personal friends. And so I've always been curious to ask, from your perspective, what will it take for a person to be promotable? You know, what's it going to take for that person to be noticed, to be seen, and to get promoted? And you know what, friends? The answers range from simple to complex, and some of the answers are also very, very well defined. So, in our 15-year research, we discovered that if you collate everything, it all boils down to 3P's. 3P's to be promotable. What are these P's? Purpose, performance, and packaging. I'll say that again: purpose, performance, and packaging. So to give you a little bit more of context about how we discovered this in my own journey, let me share with you my story. So I was once upon a time torn between two lovers, if you know what I'm saying. On one side, I was stuck whether I should continue in sales. I was building a team in the healthcare and anti-aging industry. And on the other side of the fence, I was also launching into my training solutions company. And I was in love with both. But if I had to dig deep and reflect and be honest with myself, I realized that my passion was out here in training and development. And so I discovered, friends, that at the end of the day, meaning must come first before means, because if you get the meaning right, the means will follow. So I jumped into that. I had no idea whatsoever on how to promote and how to launch my personal brand. But here's what I did. I simply had a motivation to help as many people, as many professionals grow so that they can contribute more to their organization. And at the same time, I treated every single training as if it were my last. I said to myself, I may never be hired again. So I exhausted every effort that I had to be able to pour out in every single training. And eventually, friends, that became my career signature. It became my recall. It became my reputation. And so there's this one company who booked me for one training. It went well by the grace of God. They booked me for 3, and then they booked me for 6 months, and then they booked me for the entire year. And that cycle continued on progressively, and eventually that helped me build my personal brand. And so how do we really get promoted? Let me share with you the 3P's. And my hope is that if you can just take any of these insights, you could apply it in your life, and it could certainly make a huge difference. So the first P is called purpose. Purpose. By purpose, we simply mean, what is your primary motivating factor? Like, what really drives you? You know, it consists of your value system. It consists of your desire to contribute to the organization that you're working for, to the clients and the people that you're serving day in or day out. You know, I'll never forget, there was a story shared to me about two different kinds of professionals aiming for a promotion. One person was diligent only when the boss showed up, but the other person was diligent regardless of whether, you know, the owner of the company was in the office or not. And here's eventually what happened. The person who was more diligent, the person who was more other-centered, the person who was more driven to contribute, eventually got the promotion. But the other person who didn't get it, even if he was working so hard, was working around the idea of promotion and profitability more than contribution, right? And so that was one thing that the owner of the company sniffed and discovered from him, which is why it was the other person who got promoted. We have to ask ourselves, friends, if we really, really want to be promoted, what's the motive? What's the agenda? Maybe you are in sales, maybe you're in real estate or insurance. Is it commission or is it mission? Is it helping people make good financial decisions or purchasing the right property for them? Or is it making 100,000 because you want to be able to get something for yourself? That's number one, purpose. The second one, friends, is called performance. And by performance, we actually mean your expertise, which is something that you have worked on for so many years, your work ethics, your attitudes that attract success. And here's what I discovered from these decision makers. They would rather promote somebody with leadership abilities, with leadership skills, somebody who can arouse enthusiasm, somebody who can make teams work together, somebody who is a wonderful EQ centered person, right? I'll never forget when I was 17 years old, I was painfully shy. And so my mom encouraged me to work. And so I ended up working for the #1 fast food chain in the country. And that's where I learned to self-lead. When I was 22 years old, I was leading people above me because I was like fourth, in line from our bosses. And so my responsibility was to make sure that I, led executives who were twice my age. That was the time that I was able to learn more about not just leading myself, but leading others. And so at 24 years old, I became the youngest executive of that company. And then at 28 years old, after leaving that company, I decided to get into, as I mentioned earlier, sales and built a team of 4 executives. And eventually, by the grace of God alone, was fortunate to make my first million at the age of 28. And so what I discovered is that if we want to be promotable, we've got to work on our work ethics. We've got to really be diligent, persistent. We have to build on our expertise. We cannot rest on our laurels, and we need to have the right attitudes that attract success. So that's performance. That's number 2. And number 3, which is also very important in the mix, is what we call packaging. Packaging. And what does that mean? It's actually how you project a healthy, authentic self-image. And it's broken down into 2 parts. It could be internal and it could be external. So when we say internal, we're talking about your people skills. We're talking about your manners. We're talking about the way you're able to build relationships with others, or your EQ, so to speak. And on the external, we're talking about your aura, which is actually a reflection of what's happening on the inside. Like the way you dress up, the way you groom yourself. Why? Because at the end of the day, impressions will count. And the world, my dear friends, it's still unfair. The world still judges us based on our cover before the content. Remember, guys, they're always looking at the medium first before the message or the messenger on the inside, right? And so eventually, if you have what we call these 3P's stitched together in the fabric of your persona, in the fabric of your life, you have your career signature, you have your brand recall, you have your reputation, and eventually it becomes your personal brand. It's what people say or talk about you when you're outside the room. So, my dear friends, one word of advice for you guys. I know everybody wants to be promotable. Everybody wants to be known. Everybody wants to have conversions and sales. But here's my last tip for you guys. Don't aim for a promotion. Rather, work hard on a brand called you. What good is self-promotion when there's no value creation, right? Add more value to people. Build yourself up. Work really, really hard. Don't fake it till you make it. Be consistent, authentic, and real. Work on the 3P's progressively. And when you do, I promise you, you will become promotable. Have a great day, everybody. God bless you.